You've got these budget changes to Cheshire Police because they're being thrown, the money's being thrown at them. That might have future implications for higher budgets for them, jobs for the boys, promotions, all that sort of thing. I moved on now, finally, I'll come to a close soon. About the more personal money drivers, thinking of the individuals concerned. Let's take Evans, for example. Dr. Evans, the ex-Dr. Evans. Well, anyway, you can check his accounts filed online. I won't bother linking them. You can check them. I'll link it. You can check his accounts over the period of time. You can see, put it this way, over the years that he's been involved, he's had a very healthy bottom line, shall we say. He's getting a lot of money out of it, and he wants more. He said in the talk TV interview, "No, I'll leave it now. I've done my time. I've done 30 years." Didn't take him long to change his mind. He's still in there, still in the saddle. Probably wants a political career. He's in his mid-70s now. He's not letting go. Champing at the bit. Wants to do more. Doing interviews here, there and everywhere. In print and on the radio, on television. He's loving it. He's loving every minute of his, what will end up as infamy rather than fame. And you've got Bowen as well, and the other experts. There were apparently 8 of them in total, according to the Hummingbird video, and a nurse specialist. But you've got Evans and Bowen and Marinades. You've got, in terms of this follow the money thing on the personal level, you've got the financial status impact for the 4 consultants. If it was decided that they're at the centre of these massive negligence claims, what would that do for their careers? It would nix them, wouldn't it? They wouldn't be progressing. It would follow them like a bad smell for the rest of their lives, and maybe even personally implicated in some of those negligence claims, maybe even struck off. We don't know. That's follow the money as well, isn't it? Because and status and ego, which there's no shortage in these people. The harm to ego, the harm to advancement possibilities. And it also, that applies to the trust as a whole, to the management as a whole, all the high-ups there. It's all a massive threat to them. I know that some of the fallout has resulted in some of them being, again, thrown under the bus, like the nursing director, which is another scapegoating. And Chambers, he had already retired and lives in France, and they can't get him anymore, but they would have done had he still been there. They would have gone for him as well. So they'll find their scapegoats as well, on top of Lucy Letby as well. I put here, I'll just read what I wrote, these notes. The ego wounding of these narcissistic consultants. I think they are. They've been made to, the wounding that they felt, narcissistic wounding, are being made to say sorry to a nurse. The nurse that kept on reporting them on these Datix reports because of the faults, the mistakes they'd made. And then they were being threatened with being reported to the GMC as well, possibly a stain on their licence to practice. The narcissistic rage that would then ensue, particularly from Breary and Jayaram. You've got this perfect storm of protecting them, their careers, the hospital as a whole, the neonatal ward, losing the status from level 2 to level 1, reflecting terribly on them. The very damning RCPCH report, you can feel it all building up into an absolute rage and spite from the particularly Jayaram and Breary. And they want the person to pay. Doesn't matter if they're completely innocent. They've found someone to pay for all of it and absolve them and flip the script and turn them into heroes. So they end up being called heroes, don't they? We've seen it. On interviews, they say to Jayaram, says, "What does it feel like being called a hero?" And he says, "Oh no, I'm not a hero really." But he's loving it. He's loving it, basking in it. Narcissists. Same with Breary. Crying at the drop of a hat, both of them, yeah. These are very suspicious people. Very suspicious people. Malignant characters. I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying, what have they done to someone? What have they done to Lucy Letby? What have they done effectively to the parents? by ensuring that they're lied to, that their children were murdered, or that attempted murders took place against their children, or that they were murdered in other cases. That's what they're responsible for as well. Honing into Jayaram in particular, Dr. Ravi Jayaram, the media doctor, the media darling with his own little TV show, keeps popping up on Good Morning, keeps crying at opportune moments. The harm to his public image, if he's caught up, not in this story about an invented serial killer, but if he's caught up in this story, right in the belly of the beast of this negligence claim from all sides, is he going to be wanted for his media gigs? He's got a management, he's got professional media management, like a celebrity. They're going to drop him like that. He's if he's one of the consultants in this storm of negligence claims all around him. Do you think they're going to want him on any programs? He does this humble bragging on his profile about I'm a Z-lister, which is he wants to be a celebrity, and that's his goal. Same as Evans wants to be a politician. These are curious people, but not satisfied just being doctors. They want fame and they want power. So yeah, Jayaram, it would harm his public image. His lucrative media work would dry up, I would say. And that made me wonder whether, is that why he stopped working at the Chester Hospital, why he's moved on? He wants to distance himself from the whole story eventually. He'll have his moment in the sun with it, doing the interviews. Oh, I'm not really a hero, but I am really. I'm not a hero, no, crying, but I am really. Thanks for calling me a hero, by the way, even though you got all the money large amount of money being paid to moving on now to other personal enrichments based on the false serial killer story, the creation, the fabulation, the confection of a serial killer story that they pulled out of their arse, all of them, for reasons of money. In every way you look, large sums of money being paid to solicitors and the counsel for the prosecution, lots of enrichment there. The media, the ghastly, horrendous, vile, demonic mainstream media. Think of the acres of print and the hundreds and hundreds of news reports that have got people effectively paid lots of money for covering this case in one way or another. It's money spinners for them, all of that. Selling loads of newspapers, getting people watching their programmes, their interviews. There's all money behind it. All of it. It runs through it all the time. Follow the money. And this might sound a bit of a banal thing, but I think it's in the mix. YouTubers. So there's some accounts, and one or two of them I used to follow. I don't anymore. I never will again. That have gone in there and they're making probably quite some serious money out of this, in terms of the view count and selling memberships or whatever you do. God knows what it's all about. But they're doing that, and they're going for the easy options of just going on with the horror story, the lie. They're going on with the lie because it will get them loads of clicks, loads of views, hundreds of thousands of views I'm talking about. There's one channel that does all this stuff on narcissism that I used to watch. I started to watch her video about Lucy Letby, and she did this complete number on saying how the parents had she knows nothing about Lucy Letby or her parents. It disgusted me. I mean, I'll never follow that channel again. But again, the driver there, what I'm getting at there with the YouTube is none of those YouTubers are going to be doing a series of YouTube videos about medical negligence. None of them. If they found out eventually down the line it's all about medical negligence, they're not going to be trying to get people to pay them money and super chats or whatever you want to call it, all the different ways of getting money. They're not going to be doing it over negligence cases. They'll do it with this story. So it's just it's the driver towards money through all this. It runs all the way through to avoid paying out money or to gain money, all the way through it. And then they begrudge Lucy Letby having less than £1 million legal aid, when you've got the whole state apparatus against her, effectively. All of it. So overall, you've got huge reputational damage to many individuals and organisations and institutions if it's overturned, and it will be overturned, but when it's overturned, think of the huge reputational damage to so many individuals, organisations and institutions here. And it will have a knock-on financial effects because of that. Because then what should have happened in the beginning, all the negligence claims, will come back in. They'll come rushing back into the vacuum when there's no fake, false story, evil story to blame not to blame a good, wonderful nurse. That's not in the mix anymore, so it opens up a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, comes straight in there with all the negligence claims that we talked about before. So that gives you a sense of why they won't want it overturned, and they'll throw everything at it to not do it. But nonetheless, it will happen. I absolutely believe it will happen, because it's been such a travesty, and so many people are seeing it now. So many people are seeing it now. I mean, all these institutions and individuals and organisations, they've invested literally in the story. They've invested so much of their status, their reputation, and so much money in the story of Lucy being the cause of the deaths. They'll be very badly affected when the convictions are overturned, as they should be. If it was up to me, a great many of them would be going to prison for at least as long as Lucy Letby has served, and they should be sued by the Letby family and Lucy of everything they've got. All the major actors in it, the real poisonous ones I'm talking about. So yeah, we're getting to the end now. Another outcome would be, there's two sort of wider things here that I'll throw in just to finish off this video. Potential effects when, not if, but when the convictions are overturned. The first one is that all medical and other experts in trials would be then under very severe spotlight, under great scrutiny. And then perhaps other trials would have to be looked into historically about their involvement. Everything that Evans has been involved with, or Bowen. I think that was her first gig anyway, and hopefully her last. But it could open up a massive can of worms there in terms of medical experts and other experts appearing in trials. So that's the penultimate point. And the final point is, could it act as, either by design or happenstance, could this act as a backdoor way to undermine faith in jury trials as a whole? By setting up the jury in this case, blinding it with science, very poor defence who doesn't offer any expert witnesses, overwhelming them emotionally with a series of conjoined very, very individually weak cases to overwhelm them emotionally, so that they just go for the guilty verdict, except for one juror who's probably channeling Henry Fonda, isn't he, from 12 Angry Men, or he or she. But yeah, is that a potential, that they're looking at undermining the jury system as a whole by going through this debacle, this travesty of justice, this very, very ill, badly run trial, this unjust trial that's ended in an unjust verdict? They say, well, the juries just can't handle these kind of things, can't handle these kind of arguments. But they designed it like that for it to fail. I mean, that's another point. I don't know how far I go down that line, but it's possible, because I saw a video the other day, and it was the History Debunked channel. I like him. He's the guy, I think his name's Simon. And he goes, hello again. That's how he starts it. I started saying, hello again. But anyway, that's how he starts every video. But he's great. He's a historian and a writer. But he put out a video in which he says that they're trying to challenge the idea of having juries in rape trials in Scotland, ostensibly because the juries are acquitting too many people, which is he's seeing it as the thin end of the wedge. It was a video about Magna Carta and the idea of the right to be tried by your peers, betrayed by your fellows, and that's under threat in Scotland with rape trials. I haven't looked into that personally, so that's what he says he's read about, to restrict jury trials as a whole, and what might be the outcomes on the justice system as a whole with that. God. That's the end of this Follow the Money video. I think you can see that money is, in its various, as I said, the need to protect it, the need to protect budgets, the need to protect it from being claimed by people who would have a right to claim it because of negligence, and the many, many forms of personal and organisational enrichment that goes through this, all the way through it, and individuals protecting their livelihoods, their status, their ego, their reputations. All comes back to money in the end, in one form or another. Thanks very much. Cheers.